Okay. So we will be doing today Sutra 54. It is continuation of the idea which was there in 52nd Sutra, which is talking about Vivekajam Jnanam, knowledge which arises out of discrimination, Vivekajam Jnanam. And in previous session, we saw that how this discriminative knowledge is different from the other kind of knowledge which normally we possess, and how it is capable of even going into the subtle areas, like even the atomic structure of things, and acquiring that kind of knowledge, which is normally reserved to scientists, or which can be acquired only through the help of great instrumentations which science has created. Even such kind of knowledge where acquiring the understanding of atomic structure of a thing, and the suggestion was given that if the two gooseberries are placed one next to the other, and yogi is asked to close his eyes, and if one replaces one with other or changes the position, even then yogi will be able to tell that where the first one was placed, where the second one was placed, although they belong to the same species, that gooseberries are of the same species, and they have got the similar kind of look. There's no difference between the two, but even then, why they are able to discriminate and why they are able to tell it? Because obviously when two things are made, one thing will be created earlier and then second thing will be created. So based on that, or even from the point of view of considering that both were uh, you know came into existence at the same time, but in a tree they must have been placed in a different positions, where the angle of the sunlight and their height, all those things must have made some kind of difference between the two. So he is able to discern that. So that sutra talks about jati lakshan, and same things are there. All the three factors which normally differentiate there between the things, those all things are similar. But in spite of that, so previous sutras read jati lakshan desher anyata anavachhedat tulyayos tatah pratipati. So even though two objects belonging to the same species, same kind of structure they have, same kind of desha they have, even then yogi is able to discern and able to tell the difference. Now today we are moving into the next aspect of that Vivekajan Gyan. First is that one will acquire this kind of discriminating knowledge, and how this knowledge is different. What is the speciality of this knowledge? That jnana which is totally different from any other kind of jnana, that is being talked about here. Now, before going into the sutra, I will tell you one very important thing, which will make it clear as to why this jnana, this knowledge is important. And as I was thinking about it, I was reminded of Sankhya Karikas. Sankhya Karikas, they talk about the entire Sankhya philosophy, Sankhya methodology, and very first Karika, it's not a coincidence that very first Karika states something which two great minds also have stated. What Patanjali says, what Gautam Buddha says, same thing is stated in the first Karika. So first Karika says, when you look at the world, you see that there is a lot of suffering. People are suffering. Life itself means suffering, because nobody can claim this that they are the most happy people, because everything goes according to their wishes. Even the most powerful person on the earth faces frustrations, faces disappointments, faces obstructions in what he desires. So even the most powerful person cannot claim that he is happy. There is a lot of dukkha, and this dukkha, like Gautam Buddha's first truth, out of the four noble truths of Gautam Buddha, the first truth was Sarvam Dukkham. Everywhere there is pain. Life is painful. That is the conclusion. And we have already debated on this. One may immediately, react by thinking that it is a kind of pessimistic opinion. But it is not pessimistic opinion, because what they have claimed is, after considering all the aspects of life and what all human beings do in order to overcome the pain. And same kind of conclusion has been drawn by Maharishi Patanjali. We had discussed it earlier also, and again I'll repeat Sutra 15 of chapter 2, where they are talking about this a person who is discriminating. विवेक जिसके पास रहता है, for such a person, even the most pleasurable thing is also painful. That is the conclusion. So, परिणाम ताप संस्कार दुखैर गुणवृत्ति विरोधाच दुखमेव सर्वम विवेकिनः. जो विवेकी व्यक्ति है उसको सब कुछ दुखमय लगता है. और क्यों लगता है? वेरी लॉजिकली पतंजलि हैज एस्टैब्लिश्ड दैट ड्यू टू परिणाम ताप संस्कार दुख and because of the nature of gunas which govern our life. We are all made up of three gunas. Everything we deal in life is also made up of three gunas. The feelings we have, the emotions we have, the mind we have, the buddhi we have, the sharir or body we have, everything is composed of three gunas. And these three gunas have got this nature that they are never stable. Something which is never stable and always changing, it cannot grant us abiding peace. It cannot grant us abiding happiness. That is the conclusion Patanjali draws, and very scientifically, very logically. So if we read Sutra 15, it gives us very good understanding of what human life is all about. So there, after introducing that, Karika says that man can, when Karika says everything is painful, immediately the question will come in our mind. What is there? There are so many things we can do. We can rectify that pain, we can overcome that pain. But then they say that all the means which are known to human beings, they have been adopted, but there is no success. Even those means which are stated in the shastras, in the scriptures, like in Indian scriptures, in Vedas, they talk about yajnas, and yajnas are the ultimate technology by which one can attain all kind of material pleasures and material gains. With yajnas were so perfect that if somebody wanted to be a king, he will become a king. If somebody wanted a son, he will get a son. If somebody wanted wealth, he will get a wealth, get some in any amount of wealth he wanted. So that kind of perfection was reached in earlier times in India. But then that also was found to be not of much use, because in spite of having all the things, if there is no joy in the heart, if there's no happiness in the heart, then all that goes waste. So after that, second Karika, it says that better than everything else, various means, in all over the world, in every society of the world, all human beings, they adopt different kind of methodology to overcome pain. Some people will get merged into exciting things, some people will read, some people will paint, some people will take recourse to music, some people will go on out in nature, they will travel. Various means, or the scriptural means, religious vows, religious scripture means they will adopt. But they all are not sufficient, because they temporarily alleviate the pain. They are only giving us a temporary kind of relief from the pain. We get distracted, for temporarily, we may feel that the pain is gone. But again, after some time, the pain comes back. That has been found. So what they say, it is better to know, it is better to acquire that knowledge by which the pain can finally go for, in a permanent way. So certain Sanskrit words have been used there. Permanently, atyantik dukha nivritti. Atyantik dukha nivritti means the pain should never come. Is there any possibility of such a thing? Now, Sankhya, Yoga, and Buddha, they all are talking about the same thing. That there is a possibility and there is a way. What is that way? Sankhya tells us about the discriminatory process. Sankhya is all about Viveka. सांख्य को बोलते हैं ज्ञान शास्त्र. Gyan Yoga. What is Jnana Yoga? Jnana Yoga is nothing but Sankhya, where you apply your mind and you understand the truth about the universe, about yourself, about what is happening, and then adopting that truth, you can get rid of the pain. That is the method Sankhya gives. Yoga gives the method of Sampragnata, Asampragnata Yoga, Samadhi, and concentration. And again, but again, whatever method yoga is telling, where it will lead to, it will again lead to the discriminative knowledge which Sankhya is talking about. And again, Buddha says that one can become liberated if he attains nirvana. How he can attain nirvana? Only by becoming Buddha. So anybody who wants to attain nirvana has to become Buddha. What is the meaning of Buddha? The realization of highest truth is what is Buddha. A Buddha is a person who Buddha is not a person, but Buddha is a state of mind. Is a state of mind where the person has reached the stage where he has acquired all the true knowledge about his own being, the world, the nature of the world. And when he attains that knowledge, then he is called Buddha. So till the age of 33, Buddha was a very ordinary individual, ordinary human being. But when he was called Buddha, when he attained that knowledge, which is talked about in this sutra, in today's sutra. So this sutra is not talking about very ordinary kind of knowledge. So ultimately, what is, we can, when we compare this Taraka Jnana, Vivekaja Jnana with the ordinary knowledge, we all have very good knowledge. We have got, some of us are having very good buddhi, very high intellect. We are capable of so much. But can we really claim that we have attained the right knowledge which will not bring any pain to us? It will be difficult to say that. So this sutra is talking about that kind of knowledge which ultimately liberates, which can empower the individual to see the truth. Once the truth is seen, once the highest knowledge is attained, then there is no possibility of person sliding back or person going back to the painful stage again. So that is what the sutra is all about. And the sutra reads, Tarakam Sarva Vishayam Sarvatha Vishayam Akramam Cheti Vivekajam Jnanam. So if we read the translation in Hindi, Vivekajam Jnana Tarak सर्व विषय सर्वथा विषय तथा अक्रम है. English translation of the sutra is, knowledge of discernment is taraka or intuitional, comprehensive of all things and of all times, and has no sequence. So this is the contention. Now when we look at these words, what they are talking about, so one has to really, understand that they are talking about something very, very, very deep, something which is fundamentally not easily available to ordinary individual. Now, all that is being talked about. And this, again, will be understood if we go to the earlier discussions we had on Sampragnata. Sampragnata. Yoga is of two kinds, Sampragnata and Asampragnata. Sampragnata is what? Sampragnata is that yoga in which one acquires the highest wisdom, which is lasting and abiding. Sampragna. Some word is, you heard of this, again, Arya Ashtangik Marga of Gautam Buddha, Samyak Samadhi, Samyak Vyayam, Samyak Karman, Samyak Shi. This Samyak word, it is coming from Sam. And Pragna is the highest wisdom. The difference between ordinary knowledge and Pragna is that once the Pragna is attained, that knowledge abides, that knowledge never leaves us. Ordinary knowledge we may acquire and we may feel that, okay, I have acquired knowledge, but in the crucial moments, that knowledge may leave us. But the Pragna knowledge never leaves us. So such kind of knowledge is acquired in the Sampragnata Yoga. So in a way, this sutra is talking about the highest state of knowledge attainable in Sampragnata. We are seeing 3-4 stages are there. Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda, Smita. These are the 4 stages of Sampragnata Yoga. And in the initial stage, when we are talking about Vitarka, Vichara, there is use of language, there is use of logic. We are thinking. and we are logically analyzing everything. But after this vitarka and vichara, the logic and the language, everything is left behind. One is having totally non-verbal kind of cognition, non-verbal kind of perspectives. And then the knowledge which is at the ananda level and which is at the asmita level, it is totally different, where the complete knowledge of the self is acquired. So that is being talked about here. Now let us see one by one what these words mean. Taraka. What is Taraka Gyan? Ordinary knowledge is not Taraka, but this Taraka knowledge is intuitive knowledge. It is coming from the source. It is not coming from the books. It is not coming from other people's teaching, but it is coming from within one's own self, within the individual's own mind and body complex. How it will come? After following all the discipline which we have already gone through, which we have discussed. If that discipline is followed, then the individual will acquire that kind of Tarak Gyan. So, as against Tarak Gyan, as against ordinary Gyan, this Tarak Gyan is something which comes from the source, something which comes from within. So, there is an intuitive understanding. And intuitive understanding, we again, if you recall all the discussions we had, there is a general kind of knowledge and there is a specific kind of knowledge. When we are talking about specific kind of knowledge, the buddhi gets restricted, the senses get restricted, the knowledge gets restricted, the knowledge is very limited. But when we are talking about general knowledge, when we are talking about all comprehensive knowledge, it is based on the intuitive knowledge. Intuition has been talked about earlier also in this very chapter. We have discussed it. So this intuitive knowledge is what is Tarak Gyan. Now, right knowledge, discerning knowledge is Tarak. This arises from intuitions, unlike the use of senses and collection of data. It is as if coming from the source, that is buddhi itself, in its most pure form. The difference in the ordinary knowledge and discerning knowledge is like a person seeing everything at the base of the mountain, and as against someone who's sitting on the top of the mountain. This example has come again earlier. It's repeated. So what it's trying to say is that the knowledge of ordinary individual is like the knowledge of a person who's standing at the base of a mountain and he's surrounded by a forest. So he's looking at the forest. There are lots of trees around him. Sometimes some animal comes and he gets a glimpse of it, and then he moves on. Then some more trees are seen. So what kind of vision he will have when he is in the thick forest? As that is the state of mind, that is the state of knowledge of an ordinary individual. Now that person very gradually, slowly, with difficulties, is trying to reach the top of the mountain. And after he reaches the top of the mountain, what will be the field of vision he has? The person who's at the base, who's in the forest, he may have very specific knowledge about which kind of tree it is, what animal it was, what flower it was, what fruit it was. But he will not have the comprehensive view which a person who's at the top of the mountain has. Now, the person who's at the top of the mountain, he's just watching. He's watching everybody. He can see everything. Everything is clear to him. Which are the pathways? What is there down? Now, that kind of knowledge is what is Tarak Gyan. So all comprehensive. You have to just turn your mind to something, and everything related to that will be known. So whatever that individual wants to know, he has to just turn in that direction. His mind has to just think about it, and everything will become known to him. And see what a coincidence it is that this will be those who have seen I think chapter 2, volume 2 of Yoga Encyclopedia. You will find there's a very beautiful depiction of this idea, where the person who's confused, how he in the initial few pages only you will find, if you look at volume 2, you will see that how a person who's at a height is able to see things very clearly, and the person who's in the low stage, he's afraid, he's emotional, he's worried, he's all the time. So this example of person sitting on the top of the mountain, I was surprised. Earlier I did not know. I thought that it was a very typical example given by Yoga and Sankhya in sutras. In sutras also it is given. The person sitting on top of the mountain is able to see. And not only he is able to see, he is able to see that why people are suffering. And he may wonder why people are suffering. Because he is not caught into it. So he may have pity on them, he may have compassion for them, and he may want to show them the way. Because he clearly sees why people are suffering, and he has gone out beyond the suffering. So I thought that this was typically of Yoga Sutra, and but then suddenly, to my surprise, I was reading uh, a book, the only book which is ascribed to Gautam Buddha. Maybe all Buddhists think that the only book in which Gautam Buddha's own words are there. There is Dhammapadam. Dhammapadam is the book which is very, very close to these ideas of Gautam Buddha. And some people claim that it is, by Gautam Buddha. So there I was, surprised to read the same example it is given. So Gautam Buddha says that the person who has attained nirvana or who has become Buddha, he is as if sitting on the mountain top and he is looking at everywhere, and he knows what is what. And he is not affected by anything. Whereas the person with ordinary knowledge, he is not able to discern, he is not able to understand things, and he goes on suffering. So that is what is Taraka Jnana. And according to yoga, when the buddhi is purified, purification is the next sutra, the idea is there. So when the buddhi becomes pure, the intuition becomes powerful. Sattva has got one particular quality that wherever we will place sattva, everything around that will be known. It is like a crystal. If you place the crystal against the red color, crystal becomes red. If you place the crystal before green color, the crystal will become green. Same way, our chitta, when it is in full sattva, it is like a pure crystal. It will absorb whatever knowledge is around. So whatever such a mind wants to know, it can just know it by being in presence of that object or directing attention to that object. And everything related to that object will be known. This idea has been again discussed in Sutra 41, 40, in 39, 40, 41. In chapter 1, we have discussed about it, where the mind has been compared to a crystal. So that is what is Taraka Jnana. If you are, it will be, if we have to understand it within a practical example. I had told you once that a great physicist from America or maybe Europe had come to meet Raman Maharshi. And this physicist had some questions, very complicated questions related to physics. So he went to Raman Maharshi and he was not expecting that he will get all the answers. But nevertheless, he had come to discuss some ideas with Raman Maharshi. So he started talking about it. And suddenly, to his surprise, he found that even though he was talking about very complicated thought process and complicated ideas of physics with Raman Maharshi, but Raman Maharshi was very easily understanding everything. Not only understanding, he was able to answer. He was able to answer his questions. So he has mentioned that this is a very famous instance where they express surprise that how did Raman Maharshi understand physics? He had not gone into school. He was not formally educated. So where is the question of learning physics, chemistry, and other things? But he understood what was being. So from where did he acquire this knowledge? How did he understand all this? Because he need not read. This Tarak Gyan doesn't come from books. Dr. Jaydev has said that this knowledge cannot be taught. This Vivekaja Jnanam, it cannot be taught. It sprouts. It naturally comes. When it comes, when there are right conditions, when the body is pure, the mind is pure, when the sattva is there, then automatically, as if the water flows from the earth automatically when there is a pathway created. ऐसे ही वो knowledge अपने आप ऊपर आता है. It sprouts. It comes forth. So that is the kind of knowledge which is talked about, and that is known as Taraka Jnana. Then second is the Sarva Vishaya. What is Sarva Vishaya? No exception to what can be known. Ordinary knowledge is limited and restricted to certain aspects only. Discerning knowledge is very comprehensive and all-encompassing. So there is nothing which cannot be known by such an individual who has got Vivekajam Gyan. One who has attained, he can know everything and anything. There is no object which can be left out. Ordinary individual, maybe he's expert in some, he's a doctor, he might be expert, but he may not be knowing anything about human relationship. He may not be knowing anything about psychology. He may not be knowing anything about sports. He may not be knowing anything about music. There are several fields of knowledge. There are hundreds and thousands fields of knowledge where even if we spend 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 lifetimes, we will not be able to acquire so much knowledge is there in the universe. If you study physics, how many years you can study physics to become an expert? If you study music, how many years you will study to become expert in music? And even when you become this great expert in the music, you will be so humbled down that you will say, "Oh, I yet to learn a lot." This is what uh, Newton said. When somebody praised Newton, who was the father of modern physics, somebody said Newton, you are a great physicist, you know everything. And Newton was so humbled by the science and the vastness of the knowledge and the vastness of the universe that Newton said, I feel like I'm a small child standing on the seashore. And what I have collected by way of knowledge is just a few pebbles. These are the words of Newton. This is the true humbleness, and this is the understanding that how vast the universe is, how vast the knowledge is. And then same way, somebody asked, great singer, Bhimsen Joshi. He was a great singer, one of the best, one of the greatest singers India has produced. So when somebody asked him about his prowess in music, his expertise in music, he said, "No, abhi to bahut kuch seekhna baki hai." So such great people, they have talked about this knowledge being infinite. So are we saying that yogi will have this infinite knowledge? Here we have to understand that once he acquires this Vivekajam Jnanam, then whatever he wishes to know, he can know. There will be nothing hidden from him. Everything he wishes to know, he will come to know. That is the ability he will acquire. Does that mean that he will go on searching for knowledge and he will go on acquiring knowledge? A stage comes when a person realizes that there's no point in seeking knowledge, because every kind of knowledge has got certain limitations. So in Upanishad, they say that ultimately one has to come back to that knowledge which liberates. So we'll come to that. So this second term which is used is Sarva Vishaya. Everything can be known. There's no restriction on his faculty of knowing. So ultimately, in Sankhya Karika, there is a very beautiful word which comes where he realizes that no matter what he knows, no matter what power he has, ultimately what he realized that I am nothing. I am nobody. I don't only do anything. I am not even the doer. I am not even the, what is known as ownership of something. I don't own anything. That is the kind of knowledge he acquires. And then third concept is Sarvatha Vishayam. Sarvatha Vishayam, when we try to know things, we know them in sequence. And not only in sequence, but we know in terms of time. We know some present features of the individual object. We will not know what was it in the past, what it will become in the future. But in case of a person with the Vivekajam Jnanam, he can have knowledge of the object not only in the present form, but its past features, its past, changes which it has undergone, or the changes which it is likely to undergo in future. That kind of knowledge also can be acquired by them. So that has been termed as a Sarvatha Vishaya at all times. That is why they say that the yogis are called Trikaldarshi. It's a very peculiar term used in India. Most of the time you will find that many sadhus and they say that wo to Trikaldarshi hai. Trikaldarshi means what? The one who has got access to all the three forms of mind, all the three frames of time, past, present, and future. So Vivekajan Gyan can also give right knowledge about not only the present but also of the past and future. Akramam, ordinary mind can know everything in restricted and sequential manner. That is one thing at a time. Normally, when we want to know things, we are going in a very sequential way. We discussed about in previous session when we talk about Shana. Shana is the moment, present moment. Shana is the minimum minutest unit of the time. So whatever knowledge we acquire, it is happening in Shana. Every moment we are acquiring knowledge. So there is a sequence which is going on. So ordinary mind is always knowing in sequence. Very restricted kind of knowledge is available to him. But the knowledge of the yogi is akrama. There is no sequence. This sequence idea, if you all recall, we have discussed in Sutra 15 of chapter 3. Chapter 3, Sutra 15, when we discussed about this krama, this sequence. Kramanyatvam parinamanyatve hetu. This sutra we had discussed earlier. Recordings are there. You can just go back to that if you wish to know. So that akrama, normal knowledge is acquired in krama, in sequence. Ordinary mind functions in a very restricted manner. So he acquires knowledge in a sequential way. But yogi's knowledge is akrama. So if ordinary mind can know everything in a restricted and sequential manner, one thing at a time, Vivekajam Jnana empowers yogi to know many things simultaneously. The ability to separate and focus on every moment, Shana, gives this ability. Example, Samadhi on Tanmatra. If we take sense of sight as an example, things appear colorful to us. Why? Because of the difference in the frequency of stimuli in each thing. Say flower, red, yellow, white. So if you are looking at a bunch of flowers, there are red flowers, yellow flowers, white flowers, blue flowers. So why they are appearing of different color? Because they are reflecting back the light in a certain way, and the stimuli which is coming from the reflection of the light which falls on our eyes, that is being perceived as red color, blue color, white color. So this is how the ordinary vision works. And again we have to understand that this difference, how much difference is there between the colors? It depends on the frequency of the light which is being reflected, or the amount of light which is being absorbed by the object, or the composition of that flower. There are flowers which will absorb all other light, but they will reflect back white light. There are flowers which will absorb all other light, but reflect back only red color. So this is how the mind functions. And this the point why we are discussing about is that we have to understand that ordinary individual's perception depends on the stimuli which is coming from the object, and this stimuli is based on the frequencies. It is the signals which the object is sending by way of light, and they are at a certain frequency. So red color is seen as a certain frequency, yellow color is seen at a certain frequency. Now what is frequency? Frequency is the waves, pulsations, and a group of pulsation we are able to perceive. If the group of pulsation is not there, we will not be able to perceive. It will go beyond our eyes. But in case of a yogi, he can even understand a single pulse. He can understand even a single piece of stimuli. So a little wave also he can discern, he can understand. That is the samadhi at tanmatra. What is tanmatra? Tanmatra is the minutest particle of matter. So if you are talking about flowers, flower is a matter. It is composed of three gunas. It is composed of panchatanmatras. So out of that, to be able to single out one tanmatra is the ability yogi acquires. So that is the non-sequential knowledge which they are talking about. This will become clear. One more example we can understand in physics or in chemistry, for example. When they want to study the matter, they will break the matter, they will go on breaking. A point will come when the subtle particles of the matter will go out of the view because eyes will not be able to see. So what scientists did, they developed microscope. Earlier, the microscope was very fundamentally very gross kind. So it will magnify a particular object 10 times, 15 times, 100 times. But now we have got microscopes, electronic microscopes, which can increase or magnify the size of an object, size of an atom manyfold, thousandfold, or millionfold. That kind of ability has been acquired by science. So science uses these magnifying things, instruments to be able to understand the subtle things. But what yogi uses stability of the mind, concentration of the mind. He slows down to such an extent, his sattva becomes so predominant that he is able to catch even the subtle and minutest kind of changes which are taking place, in the matter. So he is able to discern to that extent. Now that is the kind of knowledge which has been talked about. And how do we acquire that knowledge? Some ideas have been already discussed. Now again, briefly, we will try to cover some part of it. But I'll just draw your attention to Sutra 28 of chapter 1, where the ordinary knowledge and extraordinary knowledge, they have been differentiated. And how it is acquired? Yoga anga anushthanat ashuddhi shaye jnana deeptira viveka khyate. So by practice of Ashtanga Yoga or the Angas of Ashtanga Yoga, one becomes pure. Ashuddhi Shaya. Ashuddhi Shaya means there is a destruction or elimination of impurities. Impurities where? Impurities in the body, impurities in the mind. Once the impurities in the body and mind are reduced, then what happens? There is a Jnana Deepti. Then the knowledge sprouts forth, knowledge comes. So that means yoga holds that it is the impurities in our body mind complex which are restricting us from acquiring knowledge. So what are these impurities at the mental level, at the physical level? Now all those are taken care of. So there is a elaborate technology in yoga. We have got Shat Karmas, we have got asanas, we have got various Shuddhi Kriyas, we have seen Shaucha at the Bahya level, at Antar level, where mind is purified, where body is purified. And as this purification is undertaken, the ability of the mind to see the truth and understand truth, it increases. Knowledge increases, ability to know increases. And this knowledge goes on increasing till the final Viveka Khyati is taking place. That is why Yoga Sutra 28 says, Yoga Anga Anushthanat Ashuddhi Shaya Jnana Deeptira Viveka Khyate. Viveka Khyate is the ultimate reach, the ultimate goal of yoga. That is what we are talking about in today's sutra. Viveka Khyate, Vivekajam Jnanam. So ultimately, this Vivekajam Jnanam is knowing the truth about the world, what world actually means, knowing the truth about the self, what I am, and what is the meaning of the knowledge I have acquired. Comprehensive knowledge of these three things. If we acquire that, then there is no possibility of going back to the pain. That is what Sankhya Karika second also says. If you know what is Vyakta, Avyakta, and if you know what is Jna, that is Purusha, that is consciousness. If you know the world and you know the consciousness and the knowledge or the mind part, then you have known everything. That is the contention of yoga. So ultimately, Viveka Khyati is knowing the self, knowing the world completely, comprehensively, without any fault. Now, this kind of knowledge is what is Vivekajam Jnana. And this is Akrama. So, and why this Jnana is important? One may ask that, our life is good. We may have pain, but we are struggling, we are living, we are enjoying life. Why we talk about all this? What is the point in talking about all this? the point I'm talking, because these ancient people, these earlier people, they have analyzed everything and they finally they have come to certain conclusion. He said this jnana is desirable. One must aspire to have this knowledge because there are very old sayings. One of the old saying is like Sankhya saying is there, jnana and moksha. One cannot be liberated without jnana. Only knowledge can liberate, only wisdom, only Vivekajam Jnanam, Vivek Khyati can liberate the individual. It's a Sankhya view. Same way we'll find in Vedanta also they talked about Jnana Devatu Kaivalyam. ज्ञाना देवतु कैवल्यम, ज्ञान से ही कैवल्य प्राप्त होता है. बाकी कोई भी मेथड, धर्म भी काम नहीं करता है, वैराग्य भी काम नहीं करता है, ऐश्वर्य भी काम नहीं करता है. क्या काम करता है? सिर्फ ज्ञान काम करता है. ज्ञान से ही मुक्ति हो सकती है. All the empowerment which comes, it comes from knowledge. It doesn't come from anything else. Knowledge is the power, and that is why knowledge is to be acquired. Then we talked about Yoga Sutra. There are so other scripture, various other scriptures also which they talk about it. Like for example, very important, very fundamental. What is Vidya? What is Vidya? We say we are educated. Education is normally considered to be equivalent to Vidya if it is proper education, right education. Otherwise, what does education do? We go to university, we may do PhD, we may acquire a degree of engineering, we may become scientists, we may become biologist, whatever we become. Is that knowledge good enough? Can we call it real knowledge? Can we call it Vidya? Can it liberate us? So in Indian thinking, education is acquiring Vidya. See, understand this very simple truth. Who is an educated person? One who has got Vidya. And what is Vidya? Vidya has been defined very beautifully. If we take Vidya as education, then Vidya has been termed as Sa Vidya Ya Vimuktaye. Sa Vidya Ya Vimuktaye. What is education? That which liberates. Now this will make it very clear in the mind as to what is the difference between the Vivekajam Jnana and ordinary knowledge. Ordinary knowledge binds us. It restricts us. If a person becomes a doctor, he has got a particular viewpoint related to the world. He doesn't have a comprehensive viewpoint. If a person becomes a physicist, he has got a very limited point of view related to his own subject. A person is expert in music, a person is expert in painting, a person is expert in psychology. He may have very restricted view, but is this enough to liberate? It is not enough to liberate. So that Vidya is to be acquired which will liberate. So Indian thinking right from the time of Vedas is interested in that Vidya which will liberate. So that is why you will find in many schools and many colleges, this word will be written there. Sa Vidya Ya Vimukta. Education is that which liberates. Liberation from what? Or from what we are seeking liberation. If we are happy in life, if everything is fine, what is to be liberated? Why liberation? And ultimately, what does liberation mean? So if Vidya is that which liberates, it will liberate us from what? It will liberate us from Ajnana. It will liberate us from wrong knowledge. And this Avidya. Avidya is what? Anitya Shuchi Dukhanatmasu Nitya Shuchi Sukha Atma Khyati Ravidya. To consider impermanent as permanent, to consider non-self as self, to consider impure as pure, to consider pain as pleasure. This is what is avidya. And this is what happens with most of us. What we think will give us pleasure ultimately ends up giving us pain. What we think is permanent ultimately it gives us pain by showing us that it is impermanent, goes away, changes. What we consider as self, our own body, our own mind, we take it as a self. But this is not the self. Because very easily we can understand this will not work unless there is a consciousness in it. So consciousness is much deeper. So What gives us the knowledge of this consciousness? Physics, chemistry will not give us this knowledge, or the secular knowledge will not give, or ordinary knowledge which we acquire from books. It is not going to give us this knowledge about the self, the true self. What makes us tick? What makes us go? What is empowering us to know? What is empowering us to function? That knowledge will not be available in the ordinary way. One has to go deeper into it. And that is why, this idea is there that one has to acquire that kind of knowledge. So this saying, it comes from Vishnu Puran. Sa vidya ya vimukte. It comes from Vishnu Puran, very ancient Puran again. Then there is also, I think, this very beautiful shloka is there. Nana Shastra Pathe Loko, Nana Shastra Pathe Loko, Nana Daivata Pujanam, Atma Jnanam Vina Parthe, Sarva Karma Nirarthak. People acquire different kind of knowledge. People go and learn so many things, or they may even worship different kind of deities, different kind of devatas. But if one has not acquired the knowledge of the self, all other knowledge will fail. That is what is the contention. So ultimately, I'll stop by. There are several things we can talk more about it, more details, but I have made the point. I'll at the end I will quote Samarth Ramdas. Samarth Ramdas was the guru of Shivaji, and he was a great scholar. He himself was a great saint, and he has written very beautiful work called Dasbodh. There he has very beautifully stated, and he has talked about almost different kinds of field of knowledge. So even astronomy, astrology, physics, chemistry, metallurgy, understanding the metals. So various examples he has given, and he has given all sorts of knowledge is there. But he says ultimate knowledge is what? Aika Jnanache Lakshan. In Marathi it says ऐक ज्ञानाचे लक्षण ज्ञान म्हणजे आत्मज्ञान. ऐक ज्ञानाचे लक्षण ज्ञान म्हणजे आत्मज्ञान. पहावे आपणासी आपण या नाव ज्ञान. It's a very beautiful work actually. Great details are available where he has discussed threadbare about all these things. And finally, he says that if you are really interested in Vidya, if you really want to have the ultimate Jnana, that will be in the form of Atma Jnana, knowing your own self, realizing what is the true nature of your being, who you are. And that also involves understanding what is the true nature of the world. So we have, whatever we have discussed, it must have been very clear in everybody's mind that ultimately yoga tells us about the external world, which is made up of three gunas, and what is the nature of these three gunas. So we cannot expect any kind of lasting state of the external world. It is always changing. So even if you control some things, we will not be able to control everything. So we'll be always taken by surprise by the nature, because this is always changing. That is the true nature. So even this simple thing, if we keep in mind that world is always changing, everything around me is changing, how much stability that individual can gather, just imagine. A person who has this awareness, अभी है बाद में नहीं रहेगा, अभी है निकल जाएगा, change हो जाएगा. Whatever is now, it will change. Then he will obviously not get attached to anything, or he will not expect anything, because he knows everything is changing and he cannot hold on to anything. When somebody is not able to hold on even such small things like material possession, what is there to hold on in the world? People are seeking power and they are craving for power. They are running after power as if they are going to last forever in this world. Look at the world, what is happening, how people are behaving, how countries are behaving, how corporates are behaving, how individuals are behaving, as if they are going to be here forever. One simple fact that nobody remains forever, this can sober up the individual and he may give up this desire and this seeking of power. He may become a little wiser and he may start focusing on the right things. So even such a simple right understanding of the universe can give this kind of empowerment where individual can really change. And when he understands more about his own self, he realizes that ultimately body is also going to decay, no matter what we do. This body is going to die. This body is changing every moment. So what is not changing in us? What is that? Who am I? What is that self? What is not changing? So if one understands that, then perhaps all the fights, all the unnecessary efforts, and all the struggles, they will just vanish. Person can attain certain amount of peace, certain amount of under steadiness, and with that steadiness, that peace, he can live his life as long as the life is there. One requires that kind of knowledge. So Doctors J, they always used to talk about attain some steadiness of the mind, acquire some knowledge and be steady in that, live a steady life. So that kind of steadiness is possible if we acquire the right kind of knowledge. So this is all about knowledge. It's a very deep topic. If we go on talking about it, it is endless. So we'll stop here. If there are questions. Now one more sutra is there that we will be doing on 26th, which is talking about the buddhi becoming as pure as Purusha. So we'll go into little more detail of the self and what happens. That will be the final sutra. So if there are questions related to this sutra, we can discuss.
See, from where I am at the present moment, this is my own personal feeling, is that I would rather concentrate on my duties and through the duties as जो भावास में है कि धर्म ज्ञान वैराग्य ऐश्वर्य. So the more aware of what I am of my duties, the more I'm able to do them. I think that will give me knowledge rather than just reading this and reading that and sharing and talking. And along with the duties, I feel the yamas and niyamas, if I consciously try and follow, for me, where I am at the present moment, that will help me to evolve rather than just trying to know who am I and trying to read this and that. Like, all this what we've been sharing, it can give me a glimpse of where I can reach. But where I am, I need to work on this, and that perhaps will take me to what we've been sharing. I don't know. This is my own personal viewpoint.
So how it is contradicting what was discussed?
नहीं, जैसे कि ये जो नॉलेज की बात है ना कि
ये जो what conclusions you have drawn, what you said just now, how did you arrive at it? What made you think like this? What made you come to this conclusion? What is that which helped you to reach this understanding? And how this understanding which you have reached is different from what was discussed in these sutras?
नहीं, जैसे कि ये जो बात हो रही है असमझनाथ समाधि या ये अपना so many I'm not able to follow most of the thing honestly, and somehow I feel वो जैसे बोलते हैं ना कि पोथी पढ़ जग बुआ पंडित भया न कोई, ढाई अक्षर प्रेम का पढ़े सो पंडित हो. Like, my wife, doesn't know anything what I know, but I feel she's a much better human being than I am. So the idea is becoming a better human being. Like, that appeals to me at least. I don't know.
No, it's your conclusion, and you have to, as I asked you, you have to find out why you come to this conclusion, and what made you come to this conclusion. It's all right. Everyone has got his own journey. We all are travelers. So don't get the false impression or wrong impression that just because I am talking about Asampragnat Samadhi, I am talking about Vivekajam Jnanam, so I have acquired Vivekajam Jnanam. I have acquired some Pragnat Yoga. I have acquired some Pragnat Yoga. That will be wrong impression. So I'm not trying to give any such kind of impression. Even I'm on the path. I'm also trying to, make things clearer to me. So each one is trying that, but this is we are reading a scripture which has given what is the ultimate aim, whether we are there or whether we are not there. That doesn't change the desirability of a state of mind which is being talked about in sutras.
Yeah, true. That is
So,
true.
so otherwise, what is there? There's no point in discussing all these things, because just because I am discussing doesn't mean that I have reached there. I have a lot, lot to work on myself. I I know little better than others, so I'm sharing with you all. But that doesn't mean that I have reached that state. We all are at different stage of level of development. But when you say that I have decided this, then you have to ask this question, why did I decide this? What made me think like this? So that will make things little more clear, and that perhaps we can go a little further in that. That is the suggestion. But just because we are not able to do doesn't mean that we don't aspire. We fail. Sometimes we fail. In knowledge also, we talk about it. Often we talk about higher knowledge, or we talk about vairagya, and then we find that we are attracted to very ordinary kind of things. So sometimes we wonder, Arya, just now we were talking about vairagya. Where is vairagya? Why am I attracted to these things? So this is the struggle, which is we are still functioning at a very ordinary level, but these are the ideals which are there in. And I think you are lucky enough to witness a person like Dr. Jaydev, who was
Yes,
functioning
yes.
at such level.
Yeah, yeah.
So you may not be functioning, I may not be functioning at that level, but we have seen a person who can function at great level.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is an aspiration.
Yeah, true.
Often because a person is reading scriptures, he's lecturing, or we should not think that that person has evolved. That person only knows how far he has evolved. Only he can tell. He may have his own issues, but since we are reading a scripture, we are reading a shastra. So these ideas are there in the shastras. So they find mention here. They find mention in the discussions. How far one wants to go, how far one believes in it, how far one is impressed by it, how far one is inspired by it. It is the individual thing which each one has to decide for himself. सूर्य उगता है रोज सुबह sun rises. Some people don't see sunlight even in a month because they wake up 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And there are people who wake up at right time, open the window, and they see the sunrise. Sun is there for everybody. Only few people see it. Who wants to see it, he will see it. Who doesn't want to see, he will not see it.
Sir, this satsang gives us reminder daily. Reminder for self, as Ajay Bhai is telling, no, duties means duties for self, no?
Yeah, that is a higher understanding. That's what I'm saying. It is a higher understanding to say that I will follow my duties. I will only focus on my duties. Most of the people don't even realize that they have to focus on their duties. So you have come to a very good conclusion and very helpful conclusion. So I'm just saying that just pay attention. How did you arrive at this conclusion? What made you think this way? Perhaps that will clear the path, further path.
Dr. Jaydev.
So just think more on it. Then you will get more answers. Maybe new paths will open up. Millions and millions of people are there on earth. Everybody is living life according to their own. So some people who are interested, they try to search. They try to find different alternative methods. Otherwise, majority says, "Khao piyo, ash karo, enjoy karo, pursue life of pleasure." Everybody is living a power. Everybody wants money. Everybody wants power. So what is wrong if you are seeking that? So that is one way of choosing life, one way of living life. If we are thinking, then we have to think that what is the other alternative? Is there any other alternative? Is there any worthwhile thing which can be done? So thinking person will really ask this question, and when he will ask this question, these scriptures are there, these great people are there who influence or who talk about these things. We also come to know about these things from people who have talked to us about this. On its own, it has not come. If we feel inspired, we feel moved by it, then we really work on it. Otherwise, life is going on. Life will go on. Nobody can stop. It's for each one of us. We ultimately, I will end with one small modern philosopher's anecdote, modern philosopher's utterances. His saying, what he says, we do not know why we are thrown in this world. We do not know why we are thrown in this world. But once we are in this world, we are responsible for whatever we do. That's it. We leave it here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
Everyone.
much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.